Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Hawks Latest, your number one source for news, updates, rumors, opinions, and you guessed it, the latest and the greatest regarding the Atlanta Hawks. I'm your host, Zach Langley, aka Langley ATL, and today's episode is going to have a little bit of everything from Vít Krejci doing an exclusive interview with a company called Flash Score back in his home country of the Czech Republic. That really gives us insight into his mindset that's heading into a pivotal offseason and really next season as he determines his spot in the rotation going forward. And to some new developments from ESPN's recent mock draft with two prospects that have the fans split. Igor Demin and Danny Wolf. So we're going to talk a little bit about that and how they would potentially fit in with the Hawks' current core going forward. And then, yes, we are going to close out with the Hawks potentially re-entering the Kevin Durant sweepstakes. It's not something that's obviously, there's a lot of smoke there, but there have been some recent rumblings and some things that have happened in the past few days that have kind of alluded to maybe Atlanta jumping back into the picture. So I don't know. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Without further ado, let's go ahead and get into it because there's a lot to break down. And so we'll start with Vít Krejci. The 24-year-old Hawks wing actually recently sat down for an interview with Flash Score while back in his home country of the Czech Republic. He's obviously there for the summer after completing this past season with the Atlanta Hawks. Krejci isn't just vacationing back in his hometown. He's staying busy. He's got a wild offseason ahead of him. He's set to attend a 4-day holiday camp for young Czech talents, and then he will join the Czech national team for Eurobasket at the end of August. So it is a packed schedule for a player entering not necessarily a make or break year, but a year that's important for him as they're trying to lock in their core moving forward. So now Vít Krejci's contract situation is very interesting. So obviously the first 2 years of his deal were guaranteed, but he's currently on a deal that could become non-guaranteed. And so heading into training camp, Krejci was obviously asked, and we're not nearing training camp, but this is, he was asked about, the training camp process and obviously what that's like every single season and whether or not he feels he's going to make the roster every year. So he was asked about that, and here's what he had to say. Of course, there is some competition. Also, most people who make it to the NBA have a mindset that they have to destroy everything in front of them. But you also have to maintain some team morale, and I think that's working well in Atlanta. We're sharp in practice, we're getting better, we're fighting for that spot, but off the court, we're all good. That's obviously very encouraging. It shows that Atlanta is developing a great team chemistry, obviously led by Trae Young. All the guys seem bought in, and it's good to know that Vít is one of them as he's on a current 4-year deal. So he continued by saying, I have to be on the roster on the first day of training camp. I mean, that guarantees me for the rest of the year. But I'm not worried about that. It should work out that way, although we saw this year that nothing is ever certain in the NBA. And he's obviously alluding to certain trades that may have happened this year at the past year's trade deadline. So Krejci also mentioned that the Hawks team option for next year, obviously the Hawks will have a team option for Krejci's contract next season. They can choose to decline it, but that's not something they should do. It's not something they will do unless Krejci just absolutely stinks it up this next season, which he won't because he's been on an awesome trajectory, and I don't expect that to change at all going into a season that's very important for his future. He talked about how his performance this season will directly influence whether the front office picks it up or not. I mean, which is fair, but it's something that Krejci should not really have a problem with if he gets real rotation minutes. Now, let's be clear. Vít Krejci isn't just a fringe guy taking up a roster spot. He shot an impressive 44% from three last season, which is absolutely ridiculous. On his first year of actual good volume, he didn't really play many minutes in years past, but this season he was a real part of Atlanta's rotation, even starting the year playing a good bit of those backup point guard minutes and still kind of, rotated in as a ball handler in the second unit and did a great job. He brings versatility as a wing defender at 6'8". He's not going to give you 15 a night, but his IQ, adaptability, and reliable floor spacing make him a low-maintenance glue guy that Atlanta needs to keep going forward. I mean, personally, I've said this several times, but I'd like to see Krejci stay in the rotation as long as he can. I think even next year he should play good minutes off the bench. His development arc has been steady, and he's obviously Hawks weren't the team that drafted him. He obviously started his career with the Thunder. However, it seems like a homegrown product, and it's something that Hawks fans should take pride in. The league is increasingly valuing size and shooting at the wing, so there's real value in what he brings. And this isn't something that, is just emotional attachment to a player. This is someone who is a very important piece to a Hawks team that obviously is in a transformative era. So now we're going to pivot to the upcoming NBA draft, which is now, from today, a week away. So ESPN's Jonathan Giovanni and Jeremy Wu had actually released a recent mock that raised some eyebrows, specifically with Hawks fans. They project the Hawks to take Igor Demin out of BYU at 13 and later Danny Wolf from Michigan at 22. They have them staying put, no trades being made. So this draft pairing has sparked some real debate, and rightfully so. I mean, they're two guys that are both prospects that Hawks fans are divided on. It really honestly wouldn't be the smartest draft. It's something to think about. However, it's not something that Atlanta will necessarily do. But we'll start with Demin. I mean, we've obviously broken down Demin's game on Hawks latest before, and this is someone who I'm definitely more interested in than Danny Wolf. I would definitely consider Demin at 13, but still, I understand why a lot of Hawks fans wouldn't. So we'll start with Demin and talk about him a little bit. At 6'9" with high level passing instincts, I mean, Demin plays with a guard's vision and a forward's body. Most of his freshman year highlights at BYU were passes, not points. He averaged 10.6 points, 3.9 rebounds, and 5.9 assists per game, showcasing a very all-around offensive game. He sees the floor like a seasoned pro and has a natural feel for the game. But here's the issue. He did only shoot 27% from three and really lacks confidence as a scorer. So he really operates as mainly a facilitator. And, obviously with Trae Young in Atlanta, he would pretty much be slotted into that backup point guard role, which is good, which is something Atlanta needs. But, his inability to play with a lot of pace might cause some trouble in Atlanta's second unit. And it's not something that is a great fit on paper, but the potential is there. I mean, he could obviously grow his offensive game and become a much more polished player, but it's just not there yet. I mean, there were five separate games where he scored fewer than 5 points, even while playing over 20 minutes. So the tools are obviously intriguing, but he's still very much a long-term project who needs significant development to be an offensive threat in the NBA. I mean, all the intangibles are there. He just hasn't really put it together yet. So now on to Danny Wolf. So Danny Wolf out of Michigan is a 7-footer with legitimate perimeter skills, almost like a forward trapped in a center's body. He put up 13.2 points, 9.7 rebounds, and 3.7 assists for Michigan, while shooting nearly 37% from deep. Now here, this is where these guys' games differ a little bit. I mean, he's also a high IQ player who can make the right reads and find open teammates, kind of like a modern big in today's NBA, which is obviously something that the Hawks need, specifically off the bench. But there are obviously a lot of concerns when it comes to Wolf. It's not just all glory. His athleticism does not jump off the page, which is obviously a downfall for bigs in today's NBA. And his ball handling sometimes lags behind his instincts. Also, while he's shown defensive promise at the college level, defending solid NBA bigs or faster wing could be a real challenge. And I don't necessarily see his defense translating anytime soon in the NBA. So the Hawks would be forfeiting a lot of defense at the forward and big position if he were to be drafted by them at 22 and play actual rotation minutes. So what's the takeaway? The Hawks selecting both Demin and Wolf seems highly unlikely for good reason. I mean, these are two developmental players who likely won't contribute meaningful minutes in year one. I mean, whoever the Hawks select at 13 will. I mean, not necessarily. We really don't know how many minutes they're going to end up playing. But at least the guy at 13 is going to be someone who will pretty much be in the rotation. And as much as Demin has actually drawn real interest from Atlanta, and yes, sources do confirm that this interest is real. This has been reported on a few different outlets. There's been no indication that Danny Wolf is even on their radar. They haven't brought him in for a draft workout. They haven't really, I'm sure they've done their due diligence. I mean, they have an awesome scouting team that is still improving, but it's not someone that's really been named as a potential target for Atlanta. Although a lot of people in mock drafts are linking Wolf to Atlanta, so it could be something where the Hawks don't bring him in, but still the talent is there and they take a gamble on it. But I think Wolf at 22 is a good option if they take the right defensive-minded wing at 13, because you got to really combine these two skill sets. If you're getting a guy like Wolf, who is much more offensively centered and someone who might not translate immediately, you need a guy in the draft like that can contribute that way very quickly. And that's obviously not Igor Demin, so that's why drafting both of these guys in the same draft is not a great decision, not something I want to see Atlanta do, but, Atlanta's thinking, big picture, so, if they really like these guys, they could, but I just think it's unlikely. So this mock draft feels more like an exercise in hypotheticals than an actual reflection of what the Hawks will do. Like, as I've stated, Atlanta is unlikely to double down on long-term projects while their core is stuck in a growing phase that they're trying to get into contention, but they're obviously all super young, but they're not far off, and I don't think they would take two prospects that would fit the far off timeline. So now it's time for the big hypothetical of the week. Could the Hawks get back in the Kevin Durant conversation? I mean, now let's be clear. There's no active reporting that's linking Durant to Atlanta right now. And the Hawks aren't on KD's wish list, obviously, as that has already been reported by Shams and several other media outlets. It's obviously the Spurs, the Rockets, the Heat. The Hawks obviously aren't on there, and the Suns haven't shown any public interest in dealing with the Hawks beyond that initial check-in a few weeks ago where Hawks ownership has shown a little bit of interest in trading for Durant. But weird things happen in the NBA. You can't judge anything based on anything in today's NBA because literally at one second anything could change. So remember when Donovan Mitchell was randomly traded to Cleveland after the Cavs had not been really mentioned as a potential suitor? I mean, no one had the Cavs on their radar. Deals come together fast and sometimes in total secrecy, as we have seen. So maybe some of this is a smokescreen. Maybe there's going to be a team that comes out of nowhere and makes an awesome offer for Durant, and then he's traded there because obviously the Suns have the leverage in this. I don't think KD has much leverage. I mean, he obviously stated the teams where he wants to go. But then again, Phoenix is really looking for the best package and what they specifically want. So here's what makes the Durant stuff a little, a tiny bit more interesting. Onyeka Okongwu just yesterday posted an Instagram story in Phoenix, a couple days after a report surfaced that saying that the Suns are looking for a young center in any KD deal. Coincidence? Probably. Very likely a coincidence, but KD's value isn't what it used to be, and Phoenix is reportedly seeking depth and youth and obviously some draft capital. I mean, for the Hawks to make this work, though, they would need to match Durant's salary, which is going to be a very difficult task. I mean, meaning some of these guys like Terrence Mann, Georges Niang, Kobe Buffkin, maybe. It would be difficult to match that, and obviously the Hawks could maybe get a third team to come in and help out and try to match that salary a little bit, but it'd be a difficult task without gutting a lot of the depth. So it's something that I've seen a lot of Hawks fans push back against, which is understandable. However, if you can get one of the greatest scorers of all time on your roster while he's still playing at a very high level, I mean, you do it. I mean, would it be risky? Absolutely, of course. But the East is so wide open, guys. Like, I'm going to be pushing this all the time. And now that Orlando just added Desmond Bane to take their next step into real contention in the Eastern Conference, I mean, if the Hawks want to break out of mediocrity, they'll need to be bold in these offseason moves. And it's something that I think they'll do. Not necessarily trade for Durant, but they're going to be aggressive as they've ever been. And there aren't many things that are bolder than potentially bringing in Kevin Durant. So, I mean, the key would be not gutting the entire roster, which is obviously something that would be difficult to do. I obviously wouldn't include Jalen Johnson in a deal for a 36-year-old Kevin Durant. That might be who the Suns asked for, and then obviously the Hawks would immediately hang up the phone. I mean, if they can retain their starting five, really, other than Okongwu, and then still bring in Durant, Atlanta could become an immediate force in the East. Could even be like the 1 seed. Is it likely? No, absolutely not. But is it worth dreaming about? For sure. It's Kevin Durant. He would be a great fit anywhere, especially in Atlanta. Who knows? Maybe the Hawks are that secret team that's going to swoop in last minute and pull a Donovan Mitchell to Cleveland or something that's just behind the shadows and all of a sudden comes out in the peak of trade season. So that's going to do it for today's episode of Hawks Latest. From Pete Krejci's fight for a roster spot to the latest draft chatter and even some KD speculation, it's a fascinating time to be a Hawks fan, and reports are going to be coming in and out every single day. So be sure to subscribe to Hawks Latest, like this video, and turn on that notification bell so you don't miss a single update. We're going to be pumping out videos every single day, like I've been saying. So until next time, thank you guys for watching so much. I'm Zach Langley, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.